Hey, produce people, welcome back to the Produce Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kelly, also known as Lil Citrus, coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. That's right, we are in the new studio and we are loving it. We are still building it out, everyone. So please, be patient with us. We're going to get more here, more for you, more for the industry. So you're going to see a lot of changes over the next couple months as we are building this studio out, the only podcast studio in the produce and supply chain industry, next to having that office that you just go use. But everyone, we've got a cool show today. We've got a subject matter expert on the line that we are going to talk to about a certain topic and that I had met on a trip in the Dominican Republic. So it's special for me because I have been able to spend some time with this gentleman, not just in produce. I had no idea what he did beforehand. But if you listened to our episode from the hike, the trek of Pico Duarte, he was on. So you got to think to yourself, when I start talking about it, who was this person? Who is this person? And what can we learn from this person as well? So everyone, just a couple announcements before we get started today, okay? And that's going to be, hey, Southeast Produce Council's Southern Exposure Show is going to be March 5th through the 9th right here in Orlando, Florida at the World Marriott. I'm excited to go. As always, one of my favorite shows. It's so close to home, but the community behind it is the best. And this year's theme is Produce is Family, right? Ohana. There are so much that we're going to talk about: family, friends, and bringing community together. And just some past announcements as well, which is, Fruit Logistica was amazing in February. I hope you were able to listen to those episodes and check out all the cool interviews that we did. Berlin was amazing. Amsterdam was awesome. It was cold. It was tough, but we made it through, everyone. And that's what it's about. It's about connecting with people, your community, and building the produce and supply chain industry together. And how do we do that? Hey, great people, good people. I always say, it's funny is I'm part of a jujitsu gym and it's always like good people, great jujitsu. Same thing with our produce industry sometimes. Great produce, good people. So I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that, but it's just one thing that always resonates in my mind. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about 5 vegetables that you should always buy frozen and not fresh. And we're going to give our subject matter expert, David Abadin, a chance to talk to us about if this theory is true, if it's not, but we're going to let him talk a little bit about that. But we're going to review these beforehand. We're going to give you some key takeaways of maybe what fruits and vegetables you should buy frozen over fresh. And we'll let David tell us what his items are that maybe he thinks that you should buy frozen over fresh and why, nutrient values, all of the in between. And everyone, when we have these shows, we want to make sure that when you come out of this, hey, I learned a little bit more today, and let's, again, grow this industry together. So again, before we get started and hearing about these 5 fruits and vegetables, we also want to talk about cybersecurity in the produce and supply chain industry. So let's go ahead and hear from our ZAG Technical Services partner on cybersecurity, IT infrastructure, and more.
Do you want to make business decisions with confidence and clarity? Are you looking for a way to optimize your operations? At ZAG, we believe in a future where technology is a competitive advantage, and we're excited to introduce you to our new business insight solution, Syncrova. Syncrova is more than just a business solution. It's the first step in tapping into the ag industry's newest commodity, your data. With an unwavering commitment to innovation, we've created a tool that allows you to make informed business decisions faster by simplifying data extraction from complex ERP systems like Famous. By leveraging robust data pipelines, Syncrova provides organized data sets that are compatible with leading BI tools, empowering report developers and business personnel alike with a solution that's intuitive and easy to manage, freeing their time to focus on what matters most, growing your business. The future of ag is data-driven, and Syncrova is your key to harnessing the power of your data.
That's right, everyone. Zag Technical Services here for you, the produce and supply chain industry, because we know that your systems cannot go down for not even a day in the farming community. So obviously reach out to Zag, a great partner of the Produce Industry Podcast, and understanding how to understand IT, your data, and cyber security, everyone. So super excited to always talk about Zag. But now we're going to talk about those 5 vegetables that you should always buy frozen. And I found this article as I was looking on, my phone. I get all the news updates, and I was like, wait a minute, what? So as much as you love walking over the neighborhood farmers market every week, if you do, and looking at packing your tote bag with colorful array of produce, I'm not gonna lie. What about the freezer aisle, right? Are you going down the freezer aisle? Who knows? Well, let's talk about this. What if I was to tell you that I might argue that the freezer aisle at your go-to grocery store is just as much of a treasure, right, for your produce items? So all frozen produce is flash frozen at the peak of ripeness, which ensures it's nutritionally dense as possible. Now, we also know it's much more affordable than buying fresh, which can make all the difference, especially in our current world of inflated prices. So, not all frozen vegetables are created equally. Okay, everyone, we got to say that right off the bat. They are not all created equally. But while they're all budget friendly and wholesome, and so long as they are frozen vegetables that aren't in a sauce or over seasoned, some are especially worth their weight in gold. Okay. And that's what this article says. And in fact, the article goes on to say a few vegetables that are exclusively buying frozen because of how exponentially useful that they are. And let's name these one after the other. And I say it's not number 5 to number 1 or number 1 to number 5. These are just 5 items that the article recalled that I thought was amazing to talk about. And the first one, spinach. So who would have thought buying spinach frozen over fresh? And now this is one I really want to talk to the subject matter expert about, because do you want your spinach frozen? How would you buy your spinach frozen? Or do you buy it fresh and freeze it? So there's a couple questions that I have. Now, here's the funny thing. The person that wrote the article was talking about how they went through a mouthful of spinach, right? Each night. And then what they did is they declared frozen spinach as a superior. Now, while baby spinach is a quick, convenient way, right? And it's raw or cooked, you can do both, right? But bunches of mature spinach need to be cleaned thoroughly to rid the dirt and the sand. So sometimes you might get a little sandy, grainy spinach. Okay, and I'm going to ask that too to David when he jumps on, and that's why it's hard to beat frozen spinach, because be it chopped or whole leaf form, what do you prefer? Would you rather have it frozen to become fresh in your stew or fresh in your salads, right? Or would you rather be okay with tasting some of that grainy or the sandy pieces? Now, I can't tell you that I've ever experienced this, because I guess I'd never thought about it. So there's things that in there that you might just say, oh, that's spinach. Now, let's talk about that frozen spinach. Rather than, buying the boxes, shaking it out, what you need to do instead is thawing the entire brick of frozen spinach, right? Toss it still frozen into smoothies, soups, and curries. So think about ways that you use spinach and find out, is it better for you fresh or frozen? Number 2, we have corn. I never would have thought this. I am a huge corn fan, corn on the cob, right? I love even cream corn. My wife makes an amazing cream corn during the holidays. But peak summer fresh corn is unbeatable, as we know. But the season is short. Frozen corn is your next best option, everyone. That's right. And you think to yourself, how? Well, it's as sweet as the summer stuff and gets bonus points because you don't have to shuck it. Defrost those kernels and turn them into a quick and satisfying fritter. Use them to bulk up cheesy quesadillas or tuck into creamed corn. There you go. I said it. I knew creamed corn was coming. So that was number 2 on the list in this article. Wasn't sure about corn until I saw this article because I'm a fresh corn guy all the time. Number 3, artichokes. So not only are fresh artichokes hard to source most of the year, they're difficult to prepare. Frozen artichoke hearts, and again, if you're an artichoke guy, artichoke hearts they are amazing, and you know that. So frozen artichoke hearts, however, are available 365 days a year and require zero prep. So while you could say the same, right, of canned or jarred artichokes, frozen artichokes are both cleaner in flavor and brighter in flavor and more versatile since they aren't packed in oil or brine. So frozen artichoke hearts only need to be partially thawed before stirring them into pasta or even your favorite risotto. There's things to do. You can let them shine on their own as a side dish by tossing them in olive oil, salt, and pepper, or roasting them on a hot sheet pan and having them crisp and caramelized. And we're talking too much food here, everyone. This is absolutely amazing. Number 4. This one I expected. Peas. A bag of frozen peas isn't just useful for icing or a sore knee, okay? Seriously. That's so true. That's the first thing. Hey, grab the bag of peas. Gotta get right. That's so 80s and 90s because I do not grab peas anymore. I have ice packs, everyone. Okay. But they're the most quick cooking frozen vegetable of the bunch and they do deserve a spot in your freezer. Okay. And I would say all year long. They lend color and sweetness to everything from rice to pasta and can even stand on their own. You don't even need to cook them. Okay. You don't. You can just use them right in your salad or blend them in toasted nuts, garlic, cheese, and olive oil for a surprising pesto. So think about what you can do with that frozen vegetable. Now, number 5, okay, and this is the last one. I did not expect this one in the article, which was butternut squash. I'm always a fan of butternut squash fresh, but sometimes it is hard to find a good butternut squash and then cutting it and preparing it. It is. I'm tough. I'm not going to lie. As the cook in my house, it is tough to do. So while you can buy pre-cut fresh butternut squash, it can be a bit expensive due to its convenience. Frozen cubed butternut squash is just as convenient and much more budget friendly. Blend it into soups and pasta sauces, toss it into a quick vegetable saute, or even steam it in the microwave. Wow. So these top 5, the ones that I found, they do resonate with me and I understand that. So I always say on both sides, I'm like, well, would I rather buy corn frozen or fresh? But are there times of the year that you're able to do that? And that's what's most important. So we are going to have David Abadin of The Discotheque talk to us. Now, he is a subject matter expert in the frozen food world, especially when it comes to fruits and vegetables. So we are going to hear a little quick history from Jack Vandenberg. And then when we come back, guess what? David's going to be on the line and we're going to start chatting about fresh or frozen. What's your choice?
120 years ago, in Groningen, the Netherlands, a small produce business began, trading fresh local fruits. By the 1930s, the Vandenberg family moved to Rotterdam, Europe's burgeoning fruit hub. But when the 1940s brought turmoil, they fled to America, rebuilding their legacy in fresh produce. In 1958, Jack Vandenberg became a trailblazer, importing fresh Chilean fruit to the US, opening doors to global flavors. Today, that spirit of growth and innovation continues, with sustainable packaging, carbon footprint tracking, and the finest fruit varieties. We're redefining freshness for the future. Family, fresh, innovation, celebrating a legacy 120 years in the making. This is Jack Vandenberg.
And shout out to Jack Vandenberg. What a great company. I've been able to learn so much about them over the last 3 years. And even before Jack Vandenberg became a sponsor, John Papp and I were discussing all types of options of just everything within the produce and supply chain industry. We communicated on LinkedIn, and I just had such him and I have such a passion for history and passion to understand where we're going. And Jack Vandenberg since 1905, everyone. So really appreciate the Vandenberg family, immigrants that came over and are living the American dream and supplying fresh fruits and vegetables to your table. So let's go ahead, though. I know you've been waiting for it. Let's get David Abadin out of the green room and on to the screen. So, David.
How's it going, Little Citrus?
Hey, man. Little Citrus is in the house, baby.
I love it.
And we're in the new studio. So it's been about 2 months, and we're still building this baby out. But more and more, we are hoping to have guests in studio, and it'll be ready. It's almost ready. It's almost ready.
And I'm down in Miami, so not too far away. Maybe I can get in for an in-person here pretty soon.
You're gonna have to, but let's talk about this. I mean, I definitely, for the listeners out there, obviously, David, you're a first-time guest of the podcast, and again, I say this as your own episode. You were on the hike with me in the Dominican Republic, or I was on the hike with you. We gave you a little spot, just to talk about the hike and in the Bo 3.0 hydration packs. But please, let's get into this. I definitely want to talk about the fresh versus frozen, but we got to let the audience know who you are as a subject matter expert. So please, give them an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to doing this. So I'm building... I heard some applause, but I'm building a food distribution ecosystem here in the U.S. that's asset light. So what that means is that we don't own any trucks or warehouses. We basically get to pick the 3PLs in each region or sub-region that can master whatever we need in terms of distribution, whether it's pallets or DSD. And we're focusing on primarily frozen fruits and vegetables. That's what I cut my teeth in. With my experience in the industry, I've been pretty much all over the world from a sourcing perspective. And I really believe that there's room in the supermarket and in your kitchen and pantry and refrigerator and freezer for both fresh and frozen produce. They both serve awesome purposes. And I'm pumped to talk about what that looks like.
And I love that because we traditionally, when you think about frozen, you do, man. You think about the frozen burritos. Right?
Yeah.
You think about the frozen chicken, right? You think about, oh, hey, we bought some extra meat, throw it in the freezer. And when you think about fresh produce, no one says, hey, you know what? Let's go buy a bunch of frozen, put it in there and use it. It's more like I'm making smoothies, right? So you get your garden blends, right? You get your berry blends, you get traditional things that people use on that everyday lifestyle. But this article, and I share this article with you, was very interesting because it wasn't about using it for extracurricular activities. It was talking about using frozen in your meals every day. So I want you to talk about that. What did you think about those top five that we did talk about and went over? And are there other recommendations that you might put in there, or were those BS? Do you think maybe some of those weren't? So that's what we really want to let the audience know today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely not BS at all. They're 100% serves a purpose for, again, frozen fruits and vegetables. Do I think that something like a frozen spinach should replace 100% of your consumption of spinach? No. Can it? Absolutely. But there's a time and a place for both. If you're going to want a fresh salad or something that's light with like a vinaigrette or something on it, you're not going to thaw some frozen chopped spinach. But I mean, the other day we made a delicious soup at home and the recipe literally called for buying a block of frozen spinach. So they're both very useful in the kitchen. Peas, I think, can almost universally be used frozen. If you want to make a split pea soup, you can heat them up. If you want to dash them on a salad, it's not generally the main ingredient. So It'll keep a little bit of freshness in the salad, and they'll always thaw. It's not like there's a ton of water on them anyways, so they'll thaw and be pretty fresh. The artichokes was the one that stood out to me the most. I love artichokes. They're definitely a delicacy. There's a restaurant down the street from me that we absolutely love to do both the artichoke dip, and when it's extremely rare, they have the artichokes on the menu. You'll see me chewing on them like a beaver. The butternut squash too, also I thought was fantastic in terms of using frozen. Sometimes, it can be a pain to go through a whole butternut squash if you don't find the right one, or it's overripe or it's underripe. You can know that the butternut squash that you're pulling out of that bag and sauteing or baking or whatever the case may be is probably going to be just right. I do think the article kind of mentions only vegetables. There's a huge opportunity in the frozen, on the fruit side as well. In very similar applications. If you're somebody that likes to have a nice breakfast parfait and you want fresh raspberries on there, there's going to be no replacement ever for fresh raspberries. But if you're making a smoothie every morning, you're blending it and you want to eat it cold anyways, might as well, pack the fridge with frozen. And we can get into sort of why one works more than the other, but there's plenty of benefits to both.
It makes sense. And again, the article did really talk about vegetables only on this one, which is totally fine, right? Because everything has its place. We want to really call out certain aspects, right? We don't always just want to focus on, everything, right? We got to call out certain things in certain times, right? So I think that I was surprised by a couple of those as you were listening and I started kind of reading them off. I was surprised by some of them too, especially like the butternut squash. Like I didn't think that one would be one that would be a frozen item, because traditionally when you're making butternut squash, you want that as fresh as can be because you're making it into something else, right? So I thought it was interesting, man, and I think that what you said was so on point, which like, listen, if you're going for a fresh spinach salad, right, then of course we want you to have fresh. But if you're making the green smoothies every morning, right, if you're doing other things, right, extracurricular activities with them,
absolutely.
Right? I say extracurricular activities because like we're in produce, so like we come up with ways to do certain things, right? But it's so true because a lot of people just go, oh, I only have spinach in my salads. Well, someone like you or someone like me, we probably have spinach in multiple items, right? I have spinach I actually prefer spinach on my sandwiches over regular lettuce all day long.
I can't believe you just said that, because I only make, anytime I'm at a sub place or anything like that, like if I get a pub sub, it's got spinach on it. Yes. It doesn't have lettuce. I am a big time spinach over lettuce guy.
No, 100%. Like I said, even going to Subway the other day, it's like I with my office, there's a Subway, and I got one of those wraps. And of course, man, it's like spinach, onions, and they're like regular lettuce. And like, no regular lettuce. Like, I'm not shooting down the romaine guys, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, I want spinach instead. But one thing, man, I didn't understand was I've never tasted a sandy or grainy anything in my spinach. So maybe there is sometimes that happens, but on my side, I've never had that happen. Have you?
I actually haven't either. I think if it were to happen, it's kind of a 1 in a million thing. Think of how many pounds of spinach are consumed in the United States and all this stuff. I like to remind people that, fruit and vegetables, it doesn't come out of a factory. It comes out of the ground or off of a tree. Yeah. And that thing has grown and been living and needs to be washed. And if there's a little sand in there, it's a little extra protein.
So be it.
Yeah. But, part of one of the benefits of frozen is they can the processing time right before it's frozen, not that it's a longer period, but it can be more sort of because the things are going to get frozen, you can take a little bit more time to make sure that everything's washed. You can wash it again if it's IQF, depending on what the actual product is. That's not to say at all that the fresh produce is by any way inferior in terms of taste or cleanliness or health to the frozen stuff, but the sandiness I've yet to encounter.
I was gonna say I same. So that's good to know. But again, Ready Dude, we also know this is that people, you got to understand, like if you knew how your raisins were procured, like they get dried in the sand.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first time going out to a grape orchard, and they were like, I was like, why are all this? They have like this like wax paper that they put all over the ground, and they lay all the grapes out. There's sand everywhere, and they were like, no, that's good because they're going to be processed, right? They're going to go through water. They're going to get all that sand out of there. I was mind blown. I was just like, yep, I'm never going to eat a raisin again. like I was just like, nope. Sorry, raisins are not on my list
I
of
gotcha.
things I want, right? But we can understand that, right?
Yeah, and you know, that brings up a good point, and something I always try to remind people of is do as much. I'm a huge like go down the rabbit hole guy. So I think it's extremely important that whether, you know, you're eating, I don't know, rutabaga or taro or, you know, golden beets or mulberries or something, go learn about where this stuff comes from, how it comes out, how it's it's so important to connect yourself with the food. And I think something that, you know, would behoove everybody as we try to push healthier, you know, better for you, better for planet products on the industry.
100%, because again, at the end of the day, you know, you do want to know where your food comes from, right? Now, David, you recently have moved from, I would say, the corporate job, right, to now you are on your own. You've got the discotheque. I love the name. I love the logo. But let people know about that too, man.
Yeah. So what we're doing is partnering very strategically and very closely with Better for You and Better for Planet brands that want an alternative to traditional distribution in the US. So what that means is we work on a fully transparent basis with our partner vendors, working backwards from the SRP on the shelf, sharing all costs, margins, transportation, any sort of pallet picking, anything like that, customs clearance. We all look at it together to maximize our velocity on the shelf. Current distribution now is a very opaque industry with these huge transparency barriers that, to me and to a lot of the people pulling this stuff out of the ground and making these products and building these brands, aren't good for the end consumer. And you touched on it earlier, in this age of, you know, when things are more expensive than they were earlier, if everybody's on the same page, you don't have to protect yourself so much in terms of, you know, shooting high in terms of price and then hope they bid you down. If everybody's on the same page, there's a lot more comfort in moving through what pricing looks like. We're working with brands, so people that already have things established. I'm working with a cool salsa and chip company out of Canada that takes produce or tomatoes that were going to end up in the trash and makes them into a salsa. And then they take spent grains from breweries and make chips. So that's a super cool,
very cool
company that we're working with. It's called the Pretty Ugly Company. And just really quick plug, I'm also on the board of Sharing Excess, which Sarah DiPasquale was on our trip in Pico, that they rescued almost more than 60 million pounds of food last year and diverted it from the landfill. So anything that we partner with any of our vendors, because we own the inventory as opposed to a consignment model, the idea is that if we ever get to a point where the inventory, for whatever reason, is no longer viable or it's not going to go to market, we have a commitment to 100% push everything through Sharing Excess. So we really want to look at it as like a holistic approach in terms of food distribution in the US. We think there's a huge need for it. So I'm super excited.
That's amazing, man. I mean, super amazing. And I know, you know, I got to meet Sarah on the trip. I helped her out along her journey as well. I know she had an interesting time on the trip to the Dominican. Hopefully when she tells the story, it's not all in craziness, but you know, Sarah had had an adventure for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, what's funny is our co-host, our host Juanita Gallio, kind of had the same experience when she went there the first time as well. So it happens, man. So there are a lot of things happen when you're there. But let's start wrapping this up, man. So let's give our audience some good key takeaways. So if you, as a consumer, we already know some of those benefits, but if you're a B2B, you're in the business right now, what are some good key takeaways to talk about when purchasing or bringing on fresh versus frozen fruit to your catalog?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and a lot of what I believe the power of what frozen can do. As good as it is at that store level, at the user level, one of the main advantages is the resiliency it can add to the supply chain. God forbid there's some sort of meteorological event in Mexico where a lot of the strawberries from. You can source strawberries from Chile. You can source strawberries from California, from Morocco, from Egypt. There's different places. Also, it allows you to have safety stock. You can't really have safety stock of fresh because you have to rotate it a lot quicker. So frozen for sure allows for a really healthy buffer of safety stock. So I think that's one of the huge takeaways of frozen. There's also there can be, it depends on really the route that you're taking, but there's generally a smaller carbon footprint, just because you can take a little bit longer to move things around. You can plan the inventory buys out, so you don't have to take an airplane or the fast boat. You can get on the slow boat that might have more stops, and it's a little bit more of an efficient route getting to the final destination. So those are kind of my big takeaways for the benefits of frozen, at least from a B2B standpoint, in what we're trying to do.
I think that's amazing too, because we got to give everybody at least a little bit of insight on what to do. Because a lot of times, as a fresh produce company, you might just think to yourself, "I'm only going to offer fresh." And if your company has an option for frozen, then please do it. I was talking with a buddy of mine, Shay Myers over at Hawaii Produce, and David, it's kind of funny because they do a sliced onion program, and they were able to develop that. So then again, it's a different cost model when you're selling that to other processors. So they're not having to, whole onions and then having to take all those flakes off it. It's not traditional like you're thinking it's cut into dices or chunks.
Yeah.
No, they're peeling the onion. So that way it's eliminating another part of the supply chain. And they do that for customer service, right? So my key takeaways as well as this is, don't be afraid to venture into something new. Try it. Reach out to guys like David and ask them, like, hey, what do you think about onions? What do you think about asparagus? What do you think about these other options? Because you don't know in yourself. And the only way to figure it out and be educated is to ask an expert and say, hey, what can I do? What do you think about this? And again, everybody, it might be, hey, wrong product.
Yeah.
Nope, we don't want to do that. But in the essence of that flash frozen, it might just be possible,
Absolutely.
Right, David?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying. It might be possible. So listen, we can find David on LinkedIn. You can look him up, David Abadin, or you can check out the Disco website. It's thedisco.tech, which I have it right there on the screen if you're watching this interview. We also will have it in our show notes as well. David, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, man, and just giving your expertise on this article that I found. I am super glad that this article came across my desk a month or so after I met you. Right?
Awesome.
So
yeah.
I think
sometimes things happen.
It was divine. It was divine intervention, everyone. So,
I love
hey, I always say when we're ending every one of our episodes, we look forward to seeing you, everyone, in the fields and